Times sure are different. You know that they used to ice skate on the reflecting pool? That's right. About 1920, 1923. Yeah. I mean, check those outfits and those skates. Look at that. And there used to be a fountain. And is there still a fountain there? It was back in like 1920, 1923, along with this image, which has always kind of stood out in my mind. And here lately as well. Well, because I just thought it was strange that, touching the water inside of there, that would be considered criminal. Especially to see there were actually like news stations that were reporting these things. And then I heard that there were 6 people who had been arrested and 7 people had gotten tickets. Like this person here. This is a person that apparently was arrested. I wasn't there, I don't know, but, maybe something was floating in the water and he picked it up, or other people are saying other things, which it all should be investigated. And as we're investigating, at what point in time do we not look back and go, wow, what is that? What image is like another image? Well, here's the Taj Mahal. That's their reflecting pool. Very similar to ours. The people looking at themselves in the water. So it's a mirror. And I wonder, did it inspire the reflecting pool in Washington, D.C.? Or maybe it was the Mosque of Abraham. And in their pool there, they kept the sacred fish right there in Mesopotamia. Now, when you're planning for construction, you use a lot of prints and whatnot. And sometimes not everything goes to plan. Did you know that Washington, D.C. was actually Hamburg? That's right. This is one of those maps from that times. When they were planning to build a mansion. So when you want to know why the hamburger is one of America's favorite foods, Hamburg, that's what Washington, D.C. then became. I do love maps, and that's kind of how sometimes I find things in history that are a little unusual, like this one here. This is when the Tombstone Bonus Army, one of the greatest assemblies to ever grip the attention of our leadership ever, when veterans marched to Washington and encamped there. As a matter of fact, I kind of wondered, with the Potomac River being right there, there was an image that I had in my possession at one point in time where there were people washing out their socks in the Potomac River. And I thought, well, that can't possibly be why there's such a health issue and concern with the quality of the water there in the Potomac River, which, by the way, is the ancestral lands of the Piscataway people. And then they started to make laws and rules that you can't swim there. And even though, the people were reaching in and talking about the floating paint and whatnot, well, that's definitely not swimming in it. And when you're kayaking in it or canoeing in the Potomac River, they tell you, make sure that you clean your hands, but you can touch the water, because that's kind of necessary when you're in a boat and whatnot. But it's also, why they have so many, like, algae blooms and whatnot. And when you know it, they use the Potomac River to fill the reflecting pool. That and alongside, I was reading that, that they let it sit a couple of hours before they drove over it. But yet, this kind of stuff, it takes at least 24 hours to cure, especially with that many coats. And really, 72 hours is really what you should do. So, was it done a little too fast? And then, the Potomac River already containing all these, already, pre-existing condition of the algae bloom potential. You take it from one, just because you take it from one place and you put it in the other, even if you filter it, that stuff's microscopic, and then with the heat and everything and the combination of this, I don't know, it's not for me to say. I hope that they investigate the vandalism, much like Lament Harris went out and he broke through the lines there with his press, and he covered a lot of what had happened during the Bonus Army right there in our nation's capital. It used to be called Hamburg. This is actually what this area looks like today, from planning phases from Hamburg to Washington, D.C. You see all the plans coming into perspective today. And so, what we need to see is perhaps just making sure that this area here gets its justice. We all want justice for the reflecting pool, because all crimes need to be investigated, especially And also investigate this building right here. This is where all those millions of pages, they turned them into a library. Epstein Transparency Act library that contains all those records where you can go and sit there and read those yourself. It's right here in this building. So if we have 6 people who've been arrested for the vandalism, that's good. We've made some progress there. And there's open investigations for the vandalism that may or allegedly occurred with the reflecting pool, which, it's always a time to reflect. I think that we should reflect here too. I think we should reflect here a little bit more than probably the reflecting pool, because there are 1,200 victims and 1,200 survivors who require your attention to investigate. I'm really happy to make sure that the reflection pool gets justice. If anything occurred and it's not like a workmanship or plans that went wrong scenario, because there are 1,200 victims in these files here that are in these books in this library that require justice, and 0 people in America, in the United States, have been arrested. And let's hope to see open investigations, because people reflect on the things that have happened to them, much like looking into the reflecting pool and looking back at America, looking at yourself from a reflection back at yourself. Why aren't you looking here? And I have always been thankful to look back in history to make sure that, patterns don't repeat. So if you'd like to join me for the next video, give me a follow, or don't. You maybe just come back on your own time, and we'll talk about the bonus army a little bit.